Let's take this pretty decorative wood trim and make a few cuts to turn it into this. Hi, I'm Rachel from Rachovations, and let's talk about how I made this frame for my basic LG TV. The first step is to determine how much wood to purchase by measuring the outer edges of the TV. In my case, mine is 38 by 22 inches, so therefore 2 8-foot lengths of wood will be sufficient. Step 2 is to drive to your favorite home improvement store. In this case, it was Lowe's, and pick out the wood trim that you would like to use for your frame. And in my case, carry it back to the car to load it up, as I am not a fan of shopping carts. Step 3 is to measure again, this time the inside of the frame, to get the length for the short side of the 45-degree miter cuts. Now we take those measurements down to our miter saw, where we set up a 45-degree miter cut, and we cut our 2 horizontal pieces to match, and we make sure that the 2 vertical pieces match.
All right, so it's time to glue up a picture frame. Now, if you don't have corner clamps, it can be a challenge. So I don't have corner clamps. Let's take a look at the options I was thinking about and what's not going to work and what we're going to do instead of anything too complicated. A neighbor gave me a picture frame clamp. Problem with this is it's too small, so that won't work. I was trying to see if I could use half of it, but it's not going to work. So do have these corner clamps. I use these to make some boxes, but the wood goes in here, and for a picture frame, it's about 2 inches wide. That's not going to work either. So that's out. Let's see. You can't use a regular clamp like this. I don't know what kind of clamp this is called, but if you use one of these, problem is when you apply pressure, it's just going to slide. Hopefully you can see that. And it slides out of place. So that's not going to work either. So we're just going to use some glue and some tape, and I might clamp it vertically just so it stays aligned front to back. You know, I was doing some research, some YouTubing, and they've said all you really need is glue. You don't need any other fasteners to secure the corners. So we'll see how well that works. You can always add some hardware later. I do have some like L-shaped hardware. Can't open the glue. It's been glued closed. All right, we got the glue open. I also grabbed the other clamps that I might use.
Step 4 is to assemble. Actually, what step is this? Go ahead and take your glue and your tape to each mitered corner to assemble the frame. You'll also want to use every square that you have available and check and recheck each corner about 10 times. Now on the second corner, repeat the process with the tape and glue it together. And again, check for square, using at least 2 squares minimum. But more is always better in this case. Now repeat steps 5 and 6, or was that 9 and 10? Anyways, tape and glue the last 2 corners to finish the assembly of the frame. Now don't forget to check for square and go back to the first corners and ensure those are square as well. You can never be too sure. Once you've confirmed that it's square at least 25 times, step 104 is to go ahead and clamp the frame and then practice your patience so that the glue can dry for at least 30 minutes.
Went ahead and spray painted the frame in a gold metallic color. Saw many different ways that people attach these picture frames to their TVs. I decided that I basically wanted a little hook just to go over the top. I made this earlier. I just took some scrap wood, and so I already glued this up, but basically it's going to sit like this. Glue that up, and then the TV will sit right in here. And so when we put it up, it will just hook over the top. Basically, I want the bottom edge of the frame to sit. I made the picture frame so that it only comes to here. The little hook piece that I made out of wood, we want it to sit right on top here. So I just need this distance here so that I will glue the wood this far up from the bottom of the frame. So I went ahead and set that. So we'll transfer that onto the bottom portion of the top part of the frame. Just mark this off. And I already found the center of the board where each edge is for this piece.
The hook is then just applied with some glue and it is clamped down until it dries. There's no nails or screws involved in attaching the hook. And once that's dry, you can put the frame over your TV. So there it's on. And taking a look at the back of the TV, you can see how the hook just sits on the top to keep it in place. Now the circled portion shown here isn't really necessary. It was simply that I was using scrap wood and didn't want to take the time to cut this. It is time to mount the TV. So I finally got the TV mount. It's pretty basic. It comes with basically 3 main pieces. This part is going to get mounted to the wall. There's 2 of these vertical pieces that get screwed into the back of the TV, and then they just hook on here. You see that? So little hook there, hooks on, and then at the bottom there's a screw. This basically hooks it on, keeps it on the bottom. So they actually provide 4 different sizes of screws in this TV mount with 2 different sizes of washers, which I took out the ones here that I need based on your screw size for the mount in the back of the TV. So once the TV is fully mounted, this is how it's going to attach. The hooks just sit on top of this bracket here. This piece gets screwed into the wall first, but just so you have an idea. And then these screws here get screwed tighter so that the bottom actually catches on. So I'm going to take some measurements to figure out how far up I want the TV to sit on the wall. So just going to measure the bottom here so I can get an idea of the placement of the TV. In order to mount the bracket, I found and marked the studs and some level lines. This determined where the screws would go. Here's a little time lapse of drilling the holes into the studs, screwing the mount into the wall, having trouble with that, and then re-drilling some larger and deeper holes to finally get the mount screwed back into the wall. The feet needed to be removed, and then it was finally time to hang up the TV. Don't forget to tighten up the screws on the bottom of each of those brackets. Now take your frame and slip it over the TV so that you can sit back and admire how pretty it is. Zooming in here, you can see a hole that I drilled in the frame so that the infrared light would still work and the remote would respond. One last little step is to use these Velcro command hooks and just place a piece in the bottom on each corner. That way the frame doesn't dangle out away from the TV. Well, we lost track of how many steps this build took, but that's the general nature of projects. They take longer than you anticipate, and typically all of your tools are scattered about your workspace before you realize it. But it's worth it. Be sure to come back next week where we find a way to hide these TV cords. And thanks for watching.